Hello, welcome to Daniel's Inferno. My name is Daniel. Thank you for joining me today. If you have a moment, please like, subscribe, share, and join the conversation below with a comment. I'd love to hear from you. So today's video, there are actually a few different things going on today. All of them are related to what's going on in Iran after the downing of the commercial airliner. A singer and a film director backed the protesters, and two state TV hosts quit over the lies from the military. This is a it's very symbolic because of the grip that the mullah regime has on the Iranian people. So the fact that members of the state broadcaster were willing to speak out on TV and quit is it's a large symbolic gesture. Not to mention, there is an Israeli and a US flag side by side by a university, I believe in Tehran, and the protesters flocked around. They just went around it. They're on the ground for people to step across them and to trample them, to trample our enemies. And the protesters, realizing that these countries are not the enemies. The enemy, of course, is the government of the Islamic regime. Now, so, protests in Iran have entered a third day as Tehran did abandon their pretense and admit to shooting down the jet. A string of Iranian celebrities have also turned on the regime, and two hosts have quit. Leading Iranian film director Masad Kimai has pulled out of Tehran's annual Fajr Film Festival in protest, saying he was on the side of the public. I apologize for butchering. A prominent singer, Alezra Asar, also canceled a concert in a bid to show support for the protests which resumed over the weekend. The only female Olympic medalist has already announced her defection from the Islamic Republic. This Olympic medalist was known as the Tsunami. From what I understood, she was fairly well liked by the people. Now, something I need to comment and say again is the fact that it's very big for the people to be out in such a show of force. Excuse me. Because, firstly, in November, they were out in force. And Qasem Soleimani, at least it's believed, under his leadership of the Revolutionary Guard, around 1,500 protesters were murdered. So there is a danger to being out on the street, even if you're peaceful. Secondly, the country was fairly united behind the mourning and the death of Qasem Soleimani. Not all of them, obviously. He wasn't the favorite person of everyone. But there were, I would say a plurality of people were fairly upset and hurt. And after the downing of the jet, the mourning and the sadness, the anger for this, esteemed general's death in Iran morphed into how could you kill so many Iranian civilians. So I watch a YouTuber, Jericho Green, and he made a very fabulous point. A fighter jet is going to move faster than a passenger jet. How can you even remotely get the two confused? Tehran is signaling de-escalation in the standoff with the U.S., which has sparked fears of a Middle Eastern conflict. So as you can see, these pictures here, quite a few people out on the streets. Here is the film director and the singer and the Olympic medalist. Students were heard chanting, "Clerics get lost," outside universities in the city of Isfahan, a major city south of Tehran. The capital's police chief claimed today that the security situation in the capital was fine. despite the protests, with riot police deployed to face the protesters. The police treated the people who had gathered with patience and tolerance, he said before the latest protests broke out. That's a load of horse. Anti-government protests resumed in Tehran at the weekend, with pro-regime gunmen accused of opening fire on demonstrators yesterday. So that just goes to show that the danger is still, there is still quite a high level of danger for these protesters. It's not just, it's not that the danger has passed, that it was a one-time deal. This is a consistent issue. Riot police armed with water cannons and batons were seen at Amir Kabir Sharif and Tehran universities, as well as, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that square, while there were also a heavy police presence around the iconic Azidi Square. Militiamen brandishing paintball guns, potentially to mark protesters to authorities, were also seen near Amir Kabir. Protesters chanted, "Death to the dictator," and "Against the Revolutionary Guard," Fars news agency said. A rare move for a country where media usually refer to demonstrators as rioters and refrain from publishing such slogans. So that just goes to show how palpable the anger is in Iran with the downing of this jet. If the protests themselves didn't give you that impression, then the fact that members of the news agency are acting out in such a way should signal that to you. I just need a sip of water. A vigil for crash victims on Saturday night turned into an angry protest, and police temporarily arrested the British ambassador for being there. Rob McCary was called in to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to explain his, quote, illegal and inappropriate presence at the protests. They actually tried to say that he was the one who turned the vigil into a protest, which I think is a bunch of bull. There's no way at least in my opinion, there's no way that a minister in for an embassy for a different country in somewhere like Iran is going to do something as stupid as incite some sort of protest. The UK government said the ambassador's arrest was a flagrant violation of international law and said Iran was marching towards pariah status. I'm surprised they're not already at pariah status. So Justin Trudeau he went to a vigil in Edmonton, I believe it was last night, to honor the Canadians. And he claimed that there would be justice, we're going to answer the questions, which is the stupidest comment, the part where he says we're going to answer the questions. The questions have been answered. We already know what happened. All right? Iran has admitted it. There have been people within the military and Revolutionary Guard that have come out and said, quote, I wish I could die after I found out what happened. And communication systems were down and there were only 10 seconds to make a decision. And all of this nonsense, just a bunch of lies. Berlin Foreign Ministry spokesman Maria Adbara described reports from a crackdown on demonstrators as very worrying. Yeah, I'd say. You can see there are U.S. service members here expecting what happened. See, so as the Daily Mail says, and I think that they're right, I've commented in a few of my videos, the death of Qasem Soleimani had initially united Iranians in mourning last week, but Iran's admission that it shot down the airliner, having initially pretended otherwise, has sparked a resurgence of anti-government anger. So this is the last part that we're going to talk for this article here. Government spokesman Ali Rabbi denied a cover-up today, despite the days of denials in which Rabbi himself had dismissed claims of a shoot-down as psychological warfare. He said all details provided by officials prior to Saturday's admission had been based on the information available to them at the time. Quote, some officials were even accused of lying in a cover-up, But in all honesty, that was not the case, he declared. Lying is intentional and knowingly faking the truth. Lying is covering up. Lying is knowing a fact and not expressing it or twisting the truth. So what he just this line here is basically a perfect description of what happened, like what Iran did. So the singer posted an Instagram video last night, and he voiced his sympathy with the people of his country. He also voiced support for the demonstrators who staged protests in Iran last November. The November protest erupted in a row over gas prices, and more than 300 people were feared killed after the Revolutionary Guard allegedly fired on protesters. 300 is quite low. The numbers I'm seeing are closer to 12 to 1,500 people. You know, there were quite a few people that the Revolutionary Guard just decided to, open up on. Criticizing Iran's political system for hypocrisy, lying, injustice, and flattery. This is the bronze medalist, the Olympic bronze medalist. She said she wanted nothing more than Taekwondo, security, and a happy and healthy life. I wish her, in all seriousness, a very happy and healthy life. I'm so happy she got away. I'm so happy that she's in the Netherlands now, and she's just training and living. That's all she's doing. And a lot of people in Iran are like, where'd she go? What happened to her? All of these cultural ramifications have a lot of impact. In fact, I'd say they help push agendas almost more than anything. Even more than tragedies, often, in my opinion. Tragedies will start something, and the cultural support and unification behind it is what pushes it to its finish. So I also have, unfortunately, I say unfortunately because it is a Canadian company, Maple Leaf Foods. So they're a fairly big company here in Canada, very big business. They do different meats, all right, meats and other types of things you'd find at the grocers. Their CEO, and first let me say, honestly, heartfelt condolences to his co-worker who lost a wife and son. That's terrible. Honestly, just terrible. But this is his statement, and his statement, in my opinion, is over the line. A lot of people don't like when companies get political because they just want the company to do whatever the company's supposed to do. You keep your politics to yourself. Start your own blog if you want to, okay? But don't use your platform as the CEO of your grocery supplying company that make, food company. Don't use that platform as a place to push your political agenda. So Michael McCain, CEO of Maple Leaf Foods. These are his personal reflections. He's very angry, and time isn't making him less angry. A Maple Leaf Food colleague of his lost his wife and family. Honestly terrible. Condolences. This week to a needless and irresponsible series of events in Iran. A narcissist in Washington tears world accomplishments apart, destabilizes regions. U.S. now unwelcomed everywhere in the area, including Iraq. Tensions escalated to feverish pitch, taking out despicable military leader, terrorist. There are 100 like him standing next in line. Before we finish, I'd like to just comment on that. Qasem Soleimani had the backing of many people. He had the support of many people, and he was beloved, and he had a lot of power. He was the second to the Ayatollah. He had more power, prestige, and influence than the president. All right? There is not another one like him just to snap take his place. Because time builds those factors that made Qasem so powerful and influential. He fought in the Iraq-Iran war back in the 80s. He helped push the Iranian agenda across the world. This is something that takes time. And, I don't agree that there's just 100 more to take his place. I'm sure there are many more people to to step into his position as the leader of the Revolutionary Guard Corps, but they're not going to just, boom, they're just as powerful, they're just as influential. U.S. government leaders are unconstrained by checks and balances, concocted by ill-conceived plan to divert focus from political woes. The world knows Iran is a dangerous state, but the world found a path to contain it. Not perfect, but by most accounts, it was the right direction. The collateral damage of this irresponsible, dangerous, and ill-conceived behavior, 63 Canadians needlessly lost their lives in the crossfire, including the family of one of my Maple Leaf colleagues, his wife and 11-year-old son. We are mourning, and I am livid. Michael McCain. So, again, I am already heartbroken at the loss of life in Canada, and the fact that our leader is a wet-noodled puss who can't do anything. He says there's going to be justice. He says that we're going to do something about this. Well, let's see. What are you going to do? Do something. Do something. And companies getting involved like this, I don't think it's proper. Again, if he has his own personal Twitter, go ahead. Post whatever you want and say whatever you want. Whatever. But using your platform as the CEO of this company to say whatever you'd like and to get political, I don't think now hashtag boycott Maple Leaf is trending, because I'm sure conservatives are just like, well, what the hell, this guy's getting political and going after Trump. So Trump supporters are going to look at this as like, oh, you can have whatever feelings you want about Trump, but the downing of this jet, however you split it, however you want to cook it, it is not Trump's fault. Everything in Iran, it all started with the killing of a U.S. civilian contractor. That is what started all of these events. All right? It had been a tit for tat from that point on. It stopped, we thought, with the missile strikes on the U.S. bases in Iraq. Hours later, Iran shoots down a civilian airliner, needlessly kills so many lives, many of whom are part of the Iranian community. So the last thing I'd like to talk about today is the National Council of Resistance of Iran. I know this is Wikipedia. I just wanted to talk about this quickly. I did do a bit of research into it, and I might do a larger format video on it. I haven't decided yet, but I thought I'd just kind of give you the gist of what this is and who they are. From my understanding, this is kind of like the government in exile or the government in waiting outside of the mullah or the Ayatollah regime. And the reason that they came into my purview is because the leader of the National Council of Resistance, and they're based in France, she did a video, supporting the protests, calling out the Ayatollah for the downing of the airliner, and showing her sympathies for those who lost their lives and the families of those who lost their lives. It was originally an umbrella organization of Iranian dissident groups that shared in opposition to Ayatollah Khomeini in Islamic Republic, but it lasted no more than 2 or 3 years. So, despite the presence of well-known personalities, all these people, the organization was dominated by MEK, or People's Mujahideen of Iran. And this is a political militant organization on Islamic and Marxist ideology. So, not something of the best repute. Recently, it has not been so insane, at least from what I can tell. So, as you can see, they have, some core platforms here: peaceful coexistence with other countries, adherence to Universal Declaration of Human Rights, modernization of the justice system, the elimination of Sharia law, reforms that provide for any array of modern legal protections, full gender equality, separation of mosque and state, and prohibitions against religious discrimination, abolition of the death penalty, pluralistic political system with free assembly, freedom of expression, and respect for individual freedoms. So, fairly democratic, fairly Western, you could argue. I think so. As of 2009, details of the groups remain little known to the West, and very few legislators actively endorse it. Resurgence of the group's foreign fortunes is tethered to the fact that it exposed Iran's nuclear program in 2002. It's regarded by the government of Iran as a terrorist organization, as a foreign terrorist org by the U.S., alleging that the NCRI is not a separate organization, but is instead and has been an integral part of the MEK in all relevant times, and that the NCRI is the political branch of the MEK rather than vice versa. However, it is no longer considered terrorist. In 2012, the U.S. State Department formally removed MEK from its list of terrorist organizations in a decision made by Secretary of State Clinton. Of course. So, if the MEK portion of this organization is not as prominent as it was, I endorse it, I support it. There is also the son of the Shah being, like the king kind of Iran prior to the Islamic Revolution of 79. So there are different options for the Iranian people if they were able to do something about the Islamic Republic that currently holds them hostage. Again, I would like to see Justin Trudeau do something about what's happened. I just wanted to point this organization out. I understand there are issues with them. I'm definitely no sympathizer of communism. I think communism, Marxism is all insanity, honestly. Pure insanity. But if they are no longer as tethered in this organization, then this organization could have merit, and it could have, some good ramifications if they were able to actually form a political party in Iran. This is all up to the people, and what happens with the regime of the Ayatollah, time will tell. Thank you so much for watching today. I'm Daniel's Inferno.